we referred to them, throughout the orientation. So we wanted to just have a little bit of time to make sure that everyone, sees the handouts, knows what they are, and knows, knows where to look to answer certain questions. So this, all 18 documents went out in a zip file yesterday to from Sandra Krut's listserv. Sandra works with us, and it only went to clinical supervisors. So for any home visitors who are joining us right now, the idea is that the clinical supervisors would pass it to the home visitors. So please do that, supervisors, if you haven't already, and home visitors who are with us right now, if you haven't received it yet, please ask your supervisor about that. And of course, supervisors, if you haven't received it, be sure to let your liaison know so you can get on the listserv. So there are 18 documents. We made a cover document just to keep track of all 18 of them. And what we're going to do this hour is just go through them and kind of introduce them, again, with an eye so that where to look to find this, certain information. So I will just start going down them. The first one is the ECIS User's Guide. And that looks like, oh, I had it pulled up a minute ago. I guess I beg your pardon, it disappeared. Sorry about that. Let me pull it up quickly. I must have closed it by accident. But the User's Guide, what I wanted to say about that is this is, I think, sorry about this.
Connie, if possible, are you able to enlarge your screen? And if you cannot, because I know it's challenging when you're sharing your screen and navigating documents, folks can enlarge their view by taking your mouse pad on your laptop is how I do it, and expanding your fingers, separating them on the mouse pad, it'll zoom in.
I will try that. We just take two here. Let me pull up the, I'm just pulling up the guide and I will try to make it enlarged. Okay, here we go. All right, so my screen, it's also a little glitchy for me and I can't tell if it's my connection or not. So let me know, if something, if I'm not, if there's a lag or if you can't hear me. So let me try to make it a little bit bigger. Is that better? So the ECIS, so this is what it looks like. It's a PDF. It's fairly long. It's about, how long is it? It's about 30 pages. There's a pretty, I'll go back to the cover page for a sec. So it is, sorry, it's almost too big. It's hard for me to see. Okay, I hope that's okay. So here's the title. It's Release 6 and it's September of 2021. And that's important, especially for people who have been with us for a while, because there have been previous versions. So please make sure you have the most recent version. And this went out, like we said, yesterday afternoon from Sandra. So it's Release 6, September 2021. There's a table of contents. And it really, the flow pretty much follows the training we gave yesterday for ECIS, where it goes through each screen. Kind of orients you as to what's included on each screen, and then it walks you through how to do the various things that Ashley did yesterday, like how do you enter new referral, how do you enroll a new caregiver, adding a child, and it's kind of divided up into two sections. Like read this first is kind of like stuff you should know before you even sit down and do it. Please read it, and then step by step, click here, click there, kind of thing. So hopefully the guide will help you. It really is your first stop. So please, use it, use it when you're trying to enter data, and let this be your first, reference point before you contact your liaison. This, hopefully the answer to your first level questions will be here. So again, that's the ECIS User's Guide, release number 6 with this month's date on it. So that is number 1 on our list. Number 2 are the FAQs. This also went out yesterday. This also has been updated. So please, again, you might, if you've been with us for a while, you might have older versions, but this is the most recent. Again, it's pretty extensive. We're up to about 55 questions, I think. And after these trainings, we'll add to this and, send out yet another version. But these are the most recent FAQs. And again, please let this be your first, especially if you're brand new, please refer to this as your kind of first line of answering, because if you have a question, they're pretty good odds someone else had the same question, and we tried to keep track of them over the years. So this is the updated FAQs, and this is just for ECIS and benchmarks. Number 3 on the list is the rate card guide, and our friends at Social Finance helped us put this together. This was also distributed in Sandra's, and I think it's the exact same guide that had gone out previously. Again, pay attention to the update dates. This looks like this, and this is just pertaining to rate card. So this is not going to have ECIS. I mean, it might have limited information about, yeah, there it is, things to do in ECIS. It'll have rate card related things, but it's not ECIS or benchmarks. It's in general, this is all about rate card. So that was the 3rd one. The 4th one is, and let me refer to the list. Let me go back to the list here. The 4th one is actually not included in the packet that went out yesterday because we're working on those with Social Finance after the rate card training. They wanted to add some in and update it. And so they are updating that. And so we'll send you number 4 as soon as we get it. So that we recognize that of the packet that Sandra sent out yesterday, there are 18 listed and all should have been in there except for number 4, which will be forthcoming. Okay, so on to number 5 is also a PDF. And this is the document that we had a screenshot of on this morning's call about the benchmarks. HRSA put this together, and it's a nice description of each of the 19 benchmarks. So if you want just a quick reference about, who's included, for example, in a measure, this is a great one to kind of have in your back pocket. And so that's number 5, HRSA, and we put HRSA in the title, HRSA description of benchmarks, and this is what it looks like. And then for number 6 is our description of the benchmarks, which I think I have to go like this to see. I swear I had all these pulled up. Oh, there it is. Okay, I did have them all pulled up. Okay. 6, so 5 and 6 are almost like companion documents. 5 is HRSA's version of it, and 6 is kind of like our version of it. So this also has all 19 benchmarks. It has a little bit more detail on it. It drills down a little bit further and adds in some notes that, things, the kinds of things we covered this morning. But again, the gist of it is it goes through all 19 benchmarks. And just kind of describes them and covers what's in them. So that is number 6. Numbers. Okay, so we're up to, we're up to 6. Numbers 7 and 8 are the documents that we've been referring to a lot lately. And those are the 2 schedules that pertain to data collection. And these are really your go-tos. Forgive me, I think I skipped right over it. Okay, so these 2 are really your go-tos when you have questions about the timing of data collection. They're on 2 separate schedules, as you can see. One is organized in terms of the child's age, and one is organized in terms of the quarter and the enrollment, kind of like, the span of enrollment and the fiscal year quarters. And it made sense to put them into because that's how the benchmarks are organized. As we were talking about this morning, like some of them are oriented around, the birth, like I'll take the child ones. the birth of the child, breastfeeding is when the child is 6 months old, it's assessed. Depression screening, if the mom's prenatal, has to be done by the time the baby's 3 months old. Well child visits obviously are built around the child's date of birth. So this table has all the measures that are kind of oriented around the child, child's date of birth mostly, in the child's age. And then this one is oriented around, when did the mom enroll? So depression screening is due if the mom was not prenatal, it's due within 3 months after enrollment. Tobacco cessation similarly, if someone does use tobacco, that referral is needed within 3 months, so on. You get the idea. So you really need both of these taken together to cover your caregiver and child, because some are here and some are here. Trying to think, I know there are a few more things to say about these. You can use these however makes sense to you. This actually, Lisa Candles, a shout out to Lisa, because she actually was the first to have a schedule kind of like this early on. And we took Lisa's and kind of enhanced it. And Lisa was using it, I think, in every family's folder. And that's exactly, we would recommend doing the exact same thing. Because again, this stuff is hairy. You've got to keep track of it. It's unique to every family, right? Because every child's birthday is going to be different. So the time that these assessments are due are going to be different. So if it makes sense for you, we would recommend having both of these pieces of paper, print them out, put them in, or however you can do it, I suppose electronically, but keep it with the family's information. And then you can check it off as you go, right? Just, put a circle around the check every time you finish something. The other thing I want to say about these two schedules is that, this morning we talked about how the OEC has a more comprehensive data collection requirements than are represented in the HRSA benchmarks. So, breastfeeding is always a good example. We say, please get it at, when the baby's born, and then get it again at 6 months and then 12 months. And so what's on these schedules is what the OEC is asking for. So if you do all these, if you, literally like check off every box, every time you do this, you check the check, circle the check, cross it off, whatever. If you account for all these, data collection points, you will cover the benchmarks. So, and then some. So this isn't only the benchmarks, this is everything. So in doing all this, you will have covered all the benchmarks. And I'm going to pause there because this is these two are, if I had to pick, like, other than maybe the user's manual and FAQs, if I had to pick like 2 documents that really, lay out what the expectations are, I would, these are the 2 I would pick. So I hope that everyone is really, gets these, looks at them, uses them, because this, there's so many, it's so nuanced and it's complicated, and this will really, I hope, help you kind of keep straight what is due when.
Yeah, so Lisa added to the chat that she did it together with the help of other supervisors and her staff, most recently Nancy, her parent educator, and that she'd be glad to share theirs, which is designated for PAT, with anyone who wants it, but also they'll be doing one for healthy families, and she'll run it by Connie to make sure it's correct.
That sounds great. Thank you, Lisa.
That's all so far in the chat.
Okay. So I will minimize these and we'll move on to the next one. The next one is also a really key document that we've talked about before in these trainings. And this is that clarification of the screening and referral expectations. And this, again, this gets hairy. So please, and, for a lot of this stuff, you really have to kind of just sit with it for a minute. And, it's good to have it in writing. So here it is in writing. And when I say it's hairy, what I mean is it differs by measure. So for so what this document is covering is the screening and referral information for depression, that's caregiver depression, IPV, and developmental delays. So for each of those, there's one benchmark that says, did you screen for that thing, each of those three things. And then there's a second benchmark that asks about the referral. So this covers 6 benchmarks right here. And the tricky thing is that we've heard from HRSA that even if someone is already in treatment for domestic violence or depression, the expectation still is that the caregiver will be screened. And this, again, so shout out to or heads up for the folks who have been with us for a while, because in the case of depression, that was early on, that was not our understanding. So that's a revised understanding on our part. We want to make sure we communicate that to everyone. So this document really lays it out. Like, so this first row is all about depression. The second row is all about IPV. And the third row is all about developmental delay screening. And so the first box is about screening. What is that expectation for screening? And the second box is, what is that expectation for referral? So again, I'm not going to go through what they are right now. Our goal for this session is to make sure this document exists and this is your go-to, right? So before you email your liaison and say, I'm completely confused about whether to screen folks, or why do we have to screen folks, who are already known, have identified, please read this first. Like, let this be your go-to. So this table, summarizes them into kind of 6 neat boxes. And then it also has, some additional information, right? Some additional notes. And this, this goes into things like, remember for developmental screening that, support by the home visitor counts as a referral, those kinds of things that, again, we covered this morning, but it helps to have in writing. So here it is. So please refer to this one. So here are the notes. We also included, HRSA puts out their FAQs. And so we copied over some of their relevant FAQs too. So this is really kind of up there with those 2 schedule documents for go-tos. And again, I know it's hairy, I know it's complicated. We tried to be really clear, and hopefully having this in writing, especially if you're new, this is so much to take in, that, in 3 months from now, maybe in the back of your head, you'll say, oh, I think they said something about that. Please remember that these documents are here, and refer to them, again, before you call your program liaison, because we probably tried to answer it. So that is, I'll go back to the list here. So that is number 9. Second children is number 10, and that is just a write-up saying, try to make it bigger. Sorry, I was getting small again. Hopefully this is big enough for folks. This is kind of confirming the idea that all the benchmarks only concern index children except for that preterm birth measure. So we encourage you to put sibling information in, especially if it's a second birth. And but know that if it's a second birth, first of all, know that if it's a second birth, it will be looking for that. If you put in an EDD for a second child, it'll be looking for that date of birth to be able to calculate whether it's preterm. So know that it's looking for it if you enter it, but also know that beyond preterm birth, the measure isn't going to be looking for it. So if you end up enrolling a sibling and when it comes time for ASQs, you do ASQs on both your index child and your sibling, that's great. That's obviously recommended that you do ASQs on both. It's recommended that you put it in the system, but just remember that benchmark report, again, this is just saying about the benchmark report, is only going to include the index child. It's not going to include the additional activities that you're doing and documenting for the sibling. So that's just really what this is about. So you have it in your back pocket. If you forget what we said today, that's fine. Just know that it's in your back pocket. Income category handouts. These two kind of go together, 11 and 12. So 11 is this we developed out of a recognition of how hard it can be to get income information. It's an awkward thing to bring up, and people, often don't want to share what their income is. And so really what we need to collect are in ranges, and it's ranges for poverty level. And so we thought, well, we had, in the beginning, we always got it as income, and then we kind of classified that. Like if you entered a dollar amount income, this is how it used to work. You would enter a dollar amount income, and then the system kind of behind the scenes would say, okay, I know that that's, 100% poverty level or whatever range it was. And then we thought, well, why don't we just give home visitors the option to collect it this way to begin with, because it might be a lot easier and more comfortable for a family to be able to just point to a range rather than actually say like, yes, my income is, $30,000, $40,000 per year. So what this handout is, so here I'm on the income categories handout. This is actually intended for home visitors to take to a home when, they're getting the enrollment information. And the idea is that when you ask for income information, you would go to the household size that is appropriate. So if you had a single prenatal mom, she would be a household size of 1. If you had, I'll go to household size of 2. If you had a single mom whose child was already born, that would be a household size of 2. If you had a mom and a dad with an older child, for example, so you get the idea. So you go to the household size of, the household that you're in, and you would just ask them, what is their annual income? And they would just point to the range. So say they pointed to this range, you would say, okay, you're in group number 5, great, done. And then when you go to enter it in ECIS, you would scroll to this bottom here. Here's kind of the key. Group number 5 this is the range for vis-a-vis poverty level. So group 5 corresponds to 200 to 300% poverty level. So you would enter in ECIS this part, 200 to 300%. So again, the home visitor would just show, you would flip, they don't need to see this whole handout. They just need to see the one page that corresponds to their household size. I'll go back to household size of 1. You had a single prenatal mom. She would point, she would say, I'm in this group. Okay, great, thanks. Circle group number 3, got it. And then you use the key that's in the end to say, okay, she said group number 1, so I know she's less than 50% poverty level, and that's what gets put in ECIS. Now you can, if you prefer, you can enter the income. If someone just says, oh yeah, I make 40,000 a year, you can enter 40,000 into ECIS. It's an either or. You don't have to enter both. Like I said, we just added this way of collecting income information to try to make it easier for people. So it's either or. So enter either an annual dollar amount or enter the range, vis-a-vis poverty level, which is on that key. So I hope that was clear. I will share this as well. This is only for your background. Don't let these numbers scare you. You don't even have to look at this handout again if you don't want to. This is just for people who are interested in what those ranges are. We included this just by way of if this is interesting to you. So this shows the number in the household. This is for 2021. They change every year. The new ones come out in about March. So we'll be updating this next March. But this shows by household what those cutoffs are. You don't need to know this. If you stick to that first handout I showed you, you're fine. That's all you need. This is just for those folks who are kind of interested and kind of want to see that in a table form. Are there any questions about anything so far? Not hearing anything. I will go.
Connie, sorry, I was on mute.
Yeah.
We also use the federal poverty levels chart. Which I think
you either froze or I froze, Ash. I didn't catch that.
Question was, can we use the federal poverty level chart?
Yes, you can. It's the same information, and it's the same information. In other words, it's so is the question these are the categories in ECIS: less than 50, 51 to 100, 102. So yes, if you want, you can get the number, say someone says $40,000, and that really varies depending on the household size. Here's one that's 40,000, household of 4. They're in 134 to 200. So yeah, you can just use this chart. You can enter 40,000 in the computer and not worry about the chart, or you could look it up and enter 134 to 200, or you could use the handout. Household size of 4 would be here. So did that answer? Did I understand the question correctly?
Carmen, if you want to unmute, and if that did not answer your question.
Yeah, I think she did. I just got confused with the group number and the other chart because we usually use the federal poverty levels, which was sent for this year.
Yeah.
I don't really use much this, even though we had it in the past. I really use more the federal.
Which this is consistent with.
Okay.
These should be the same. You should have the same numbers I do. Like I said, they change in March. So you might want, these are the most recent ones, the current ones. So you might want to double check that you have the same numbers we do. But absolutely, if you're comfortable already with this table, and if you want to just look it up this way, that's totally fine.
Mm-hmm. And I think
we're just,
go ahead, Carmen.
Sorry.
No, I was saying thank you. Something else?
It's essentially the handout, and this is the same information. It's just the handout does not show, if you were showing the family, the handout would not show what percentage of the poverty level they're at. So, which confuses me. So I'm sure if someone showed me that, I wouldn't even know what it meant. So they're both essentially the same information.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know. Because the poverty level chart shows the percentage, and we are using the percentage to enter into the data system. So I thought it was more accurate.
Yeah. So the poverty level chart is a combination of this page that Connie has on right now, plus the key at the end. So it's dependent on, like, what do you want to show the family? Do you want to show them with the chart with the percentages, or do you want to just have them point to a range and then you figure out the percentage after the visit?
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, we were just trying to kind of put ourselves in the shoes of the home visitor and the family. You know, like, what's the most comfortable way to do it? And we thought this was kind of the, you know, the most comfortable way to kind of broach the topic. Like for me it would be, if someone asked me my income, I would just kind of want to point to a range. But Carmen, if you're used to using the poverty level chart, please, you know, that's great. We're just trying to give you options. So do whatever works for you. That sounds great.
Thanks.
Sure.
And that's all that's in the chat, Connie.
Okay. So we are cruising right along. We're up to the user request form, number 13. So this is just how to get in the system in the first place. This is the most recent copy. Again, we, you know, look at the dates. Again, if you've been with us for a while, you might have previous versions of this. So, you know, you can always look at the date. This is, you know, pretty recent. Again, this is what went out in Sandra's email yesterday. It's got the nice red, which is new. And it's got HFA on here. So just, you know, this is the form, especially for you new folks. This is, if you you know, I know a bunch of people are in the position now of hiring new staff. Once you hire new staff and they need to get their logins for ECIS, this is what you would, you know, fill out and give to your program liaison. And then they would take it from there and set up the user account in ECIS. And so this has, so this is you. So if you're a supervisor, this is you because you're the requester. This part you would fill out for new, if you have a new home visitor, for example, you'd fill out your model, you would check home visitor. If you are child first or nurse family partnership, you would confirm that here. And then here's where the new user, you know, their name, their email, their information would go here. And then sometimes we need to change user information. And so that would go here. So this section is for those brand new folks, and this section is to change information about existing users. So that's the ad, and it's called user request form. That's number 13. Consent form, number 14. We have to. I don't, am I missing, do I not see 14 here?
I don't see it.
Apologize. Oh, is it, let me see if it's a PDF. Here we go. Okay, so consent. So this is, again, the most recent consent form. You might have previous versions. This goes to the rights and responsibilities. And then the relatively new addition to this consent form is this area here. Right, there are two areas that are new. Okay, I'm going to talk about this one first. So this, let me take, there are 3 checkboxes here. Let me just take them one at a time. So this is what we would consider like the old-fashioned usual program consent, like I'm consenting to get home visiting, right? This is the most common consent right here. I want a home visitor, I want to join the program, and you can put my information into the system. This is what we were talking about yesterday, with the idea that there might be people who don't want home visiting, but we're hoping to gather some demographic information. So this is where they would sign to say, I don't want home visiting, but yes, you can go ahead and put some limited demographic information about me into the computer. So this is that screening consent that came up yesterday. Again, it's only if they don't want home visiting services, right? It says right here, I do not wish home visiting services, but I give my permission to enter a little demographic information. So that's this group. And then we also added the re-enroll section. So this is for re-enrolls. So it's all on the same form. There are these 3 sections, but they're all on the same form. That looks like this.
And I will just note now that we are getting this translated into Spanish. I sent it to the translator yesterday, and we probably have it by the end of the day today or tomorrow. So we will be sending that out once that we receive that.
Fantastic. Okay, so back to, that was 14, we're up to 15. So 15, now the rest of these are just enrollment forms. Let me see, what's the best way to open them up here. With me while I open these up. So we got, I think we're just missing 17. Where did 17 go?
Is it a PDF?
I don't think it is. 17 is caregiver enrollment form. Well, that's a good. Sorry about that. All right, I will get that. But in the meantime, let me go. So let me, for these screening and enrollment forms, again, we put these together to try to be helpful. You're more than welcome to tinker with them. We made them to mirror ECIS. So the idea is if you fill this out, when you go to enter your information in ECIS, it's all right there for you. But these are, these are just here to help you. Use them if they help you, don't if they don't. And by all means, enhance them, change them any way you want. But we did put together, so here's the referral form. So it's really, like I said, it should be just mirroring what's on that referral form in ECIS. And then we also had referral form if no consent, and that's 16, which I think I grabbed. So here's, again, this is the screening consent is no, I'll make it bigger. So if screening consent is no, that's what this form is for. So this is that limited demographic information. So there's no spaces for name or address or phone or any of that. It's just, when did you speak to the caregiver? Where did you find them? This is on the phone or in person. Again, it mirrors ECIS. So once you're familiar with the screens in ECIS, this will probably make more sense. But it's just, but if you feel, the idea is, if you see this on paper, you fill it out, then you go into ECIS, you're all set to just go ahead and enter it. But again, so there are 2 referral forms. One is, this screening consent is no, meaning there's no identifiable information. And then the other one is the more typical one where, yes, I'm enrolling in home visiting. I give you consent. This would be, I didn't circle it, but it would be a yes. And then, so this is all the information you would need to enter the referral information. So that was 14, sorry, that was 15 and 16. And let me grab the caregiver enrollment form real quick. Sorry, I thought I had that pulled up. Just give me 1 minute here. And Ashley, I don't know if you have anything to add in the meantime.
Nope. Lisa graciously said that she would share their intake and screening form with OEC.
Okay, great.
That we could review it and see if it could get disseminated further. There's nothing missing.
Okie doke. Is Lisa implying that her form is better than ours?
Probably, which I wouldn't doubt. So Lisa's
All right,
team
Lisa.
and crew is amazing.
Lisa will take it. Thank you. Okay, so here is that enrollment form. So it, and it really, it's going to look pretty similar, right? It's the same formatting, same fields, you fill it out, you should be all set. So it just looks like that. So that was the caregiver. So we had the 2 versions of the referral form, and then we have one for caregivers, and then the last one is the one for children. Same formatting, slightly different information for children. But there you go. If you fill this out when you go to add a child in ECIS, you should be all set. So that really covers it. We zipped through fairly quickly. But again, the idea is we want to just make sure that all these documents exist. And hopefully this is kind of like your first, make it bigger. This is hopefully like your first line of defense, to read up on what the expectations are and how to go about doing things. And if you have questions, please refer to all these 18 documents, and hopefully they'll help out.
Okay. So Deborah, can you go over the screening for no consent or no home visiting, but limited information in the system?
Yeah, definitely. So do you mean the actual form?
Yeah, and Deborah, we are allowing verbal consent. We double checked and that is allowed. And if you do end up meeting with the person in person, you can get a signature when you do end up meeting with them.
Yeah, and I think the idea of verbal consent is in the FAQs too, so that's in writing. So this isn't for people where you're kind of not sure, are they going to consent or not? This is for people who said, no, I definitely don't want home visiting, right? This isn't for, like, I wouldn't fill this out until you're sure. They said, nope, I don't want home visiting. And please don't put anything about me in the system. This is the anonymous. This is for folks who want to remain anonymous. And so all this information, and again, this has been vetted by our legal department, that this information is not enough to be able to identify anyone. So this piece of paper alone, or the electronic version once it's entered into the system, wouldn't be enough to identify someone. You have a date, you spoke with someone who was referred, say this is by WIC. They were female, they were prenatal, and here was their risk profile, right? Did you offer home visiting?
Did you want to share your screen? You're not sharing it anymore.
Oh dear, it says I am. I wonder if my connection, is my connection wonky? Let me try again. I'm sorry, I had the red bar around it. Okay, now can you see it?
Yeah.
I
Okay,
can't-
sorry about that.
Oh, okay. Maybe it's just my computer.
Yeah, some of us are seeing.
Guess it's just
so-
for you guys, sorry.
So anyway, just to Deborah's point, so what the point I was trying to make is this shouldn't, this is again, that screening consent refers to, I don't give consent for anything to be put in the system about me. And this is all anonymous information. It's just, like I was just saying, it's when did you speak to them, male, female, prenatal or not, risk information. Did you offer home visiting? If not, why not? Did they accept? If not, why not? Yeah, so this isn't even relevant probably because they would have said no up here. So this, again, this, you might have this on a different piece of paper. You may have a completely different note keeping system. That's fine. This is just, a suggestion if it helps. And like I said, we did it with an eye to knowing what's in ECIS. So the idea behind these forms is, it stinks when you're trying to enter something and there's a required field and you have all the other information except this like one required field and you can't save the record because you're missing that one piece of information. So the idea behind these forms is it helps you, make sure you have all the information so you can, once you do sit down to enter into ECIS, you can, you won't get hung up.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you call it a screening consent? Why don't you just call it consent?
Ash, do you want to take that?
Sure. We call it screening consent because they're not going to be enrolling in home visiting. So are they allowing us to put our screening information into ECIS? Are they giving us consent to put just the screening information, who we reached, where we found them, those kind of things, which will help us improve our program practices and get a picture of where we are meeting families, where we're not meeting families, what the risks of those families are. And so the screening consent is that they're not enrolling in home visiting, whether they're not interested, they don't, they're ineligible for a model in their area or what the case could be. And so we're asking them, do you give us consent to put your screening information into the system, even though you're not getting any other services?
Thank you, Ashley.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and so just to show you, there are two versions of the referral form. This is for folks who are going to enroll, and this is for folks who are not going to enroll and who don't want anything about them in the system. So there are sort of two versions of it.
Okay, and then Deborah said if your region is moving towards centralized intake, which her region is going to be moving towards, the screener of the intake would enter the information into ECIS. And she asked if that's correct. And of course that is possible. That's what the goal is. We developed ECIS to do that. I know that some regions are, doing it the old school way. We're picking up the phone and saying, I have a referral for you. Here's their contact information. I'll send you the screening I did. Of course, with ECIS being built the way it is, our hopes is that, the screener can certainly enter that information into ECIS and send that referral to the receiving site. Of course, with the caveat that we went over yesterday, that you are talking with that site to ensure that they have a vacancy, that the family meets program eligibility per the model that they're using. So all those kind of things, as long as there's that conversation beforehand, yes, the screener can send a referral in ECIS to the receiving site. Any other questions? We can take them in the chat, or you can raise your hand or unmute. And if you do not get these documents from Sandra yesterday, whether you're not on her list yet or a couple of my programs, we found that the attachments are getting lost in their system. So we can send it securely if that's the case. certainly reach out to your program liaison and we can get those to you. All right, well, we don't have anything else, so we'll stay on for a couple more questions if anyone has them. But other than that, you have 13 minutes back in your day.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Can you enroll a Spanish-speaking caregiver with the all Spanish consent form, or should I wait for the one that has to be translated?
The previous consent form is pretty much, I think, what we have right now. We might have changed a couple different words to cover that their file will be transferred if they transfer to a new home visiting agency. So it's essentially the same information. Like I said, that new translation will be coming probably by tomorrow. They're usually really quick with these translation services. And so we can get that out tomorrow if you want to wait a day. But I think the previous consent form that's translated into Spanish already is just missing, I think, a sentence or two.
It's missing a little bit more.
Oh, it is? Okay. I wonder what
Yeah.
version. Okay, so you can wait a day. I think, like I said, it will probably be back to me by the end of today or early tomorrow morning.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. I'm going to stop the recording just so it's not awkward silence of Connie and I sitting here. But we'll hang on for a little bit if anyone has questions. And for those of you that are still here, just a reminder that tomorrow's session has flipped. DV will be in the morning and training calendar innovation modules will be in the afternoon. And so the time also has added an hour in the morning and lessened in the afternoon. So I'll have liaison send that out to everyone who logged off already. The recordings to these will be, they're on YouTube. The past few days were sent out yesterday by Sandra, I think. If not, I will have her send it out again. It was in the slide that showed the schedule. So the link for the title was hyperlinked and you can click that and I'll bring you to the YouTube page. Tomorrow's time, I can share my screen real quick. Where's the window? Tomorrow starts at 9:30. Is it showing yet?
No.
Oh my goodness. All right, let me move this over. Tomorrow starts at 9:30 to 11:30, and it is the DV. Let me see. And then the afternoon, I believe, is 1:30. Oh my God, it's taking forever. I'm sorry, guys. Well, I'll read it to you. Okay. So DV tomorrow morning is 9:30 to 11:30, and the training calendar and home visiting modules is 1:30 to 2:30.
And we have some disbelief in the chat that we are really using YouTube. And Ashley really did mean YouTube when she said YouTube.
I really meant YouTube, and I can tell you I've never been on the YouTube channel, so who knows what else is on there, but I'm sure a lot of things, so.
It was, and I guess we can say too, we're working on getting a training platform. And until that happens, these team recordings are so hard to get out of Teams and share that YouTube was the kind of like the most expeditious way to do that. So we really are using YouTube, and hopefully in the not too distant future, we'll have more of a training platform, but for now it is YouTube.
So we just go to YouTube and look up OEC orientation training.
Oh, you know what? Ashley is having technical trouble. I think that what Ashley is, unfortunately, she had technical trouble.
Yeah, she's frozen.
She's frozen, I know. So she's much more hip to this than I am. But I think we're sending you a link. So I don't
Okay.
think, the expectation is not to go to YouTube and start searching. I
Mhm.
think I'm like 99% sure that we have a link to send out and that YouTube is just like the platform, you know, so you click on the link and it's YouTube, but we'll send you the link.
Okay, please send the link.
Yeah.
Thank
Oh,
you.
Ashley, are you back? Ashley's having
She's
technical trouble.
barely back. If you can hear Ashley in the chat, can you share if it's, oh, you're back.
I'm back.
Okay, good. The question, did you hear the question? It was about the YouTube connection. So is there a link to the OEC's page that we provided?
So let me see if I can find what was sent yesterday, and I can show you what it looks like. So hopefully my computer won't crash again. I'll just share my entire screen. All right, you see stuff now? Okay, so this should have been sent out yesterday, and if not, I will have it be sent out again. But the names are hyperlinked, and it will bring you to the YouTube for it.
There we go. Okay, so they click on, so like for Sparkler, they click on the green link that says Sparkler Project, and it'll take them within YouTube, it'll go right to that video.
Yes, it's supposed to.
Okay.
Open hyperlink. And so the only one that we don't have, we'll obviously put the doula and today's trainings up there. The contracts one did not save the recording, so we're going to have to on our end go through it and record it again for people, but it's all there. Right?
Yeah, looks good.
I have a question.
Yep.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so again, I'm new to all of this, but my question is, I just wanted to know is how does all of, because I know there's a lot of measures